You know, we handle money every single day, right? We feel like we've got a pretty good handle on it. But what if I told you that the very foundation of the US dollar, the most important currency on the planet, was completely turned on its head not too long ago? Let's dive into how this all went down, this massive shift from gold to pure trust, and see how it totally reshaped the world's economy.
And that really brings us to the big question, doesn't it? How in the world did the US dollar, something that used to be a symbol of real, solid wealth, turn into, well, what it is today? It all comes down to one single massive turning point in history. Okay, so this is the world we're all living in right now. Since 1971, we've been on what's called a fiat standard. Now, fiat is just a Latin word that means let it be done. What it really means is that the money in your pocket has value simply because the government declares it does, and well, we all just agree to go along with it. It's a huge shift from the old days when a piece of paper actually stood for real physical stuff.
To really get how big of a deal this change was, we got to rewind the clock a bit. Let's talk about what people call the dollar's golden age. And that's not just a clever name. It was an era when the dollar's value was literally as solid as the metal it was linked to.
Back in those days, the US economy was a completely different beast. I mean, think about this. It was the world's biggest creditor. It was a powerhouse of manufacturing, and the whole system was anchored by this one simple fact. The dollar was backed by actual physical gold. That kept everyone honest.
$35. That number is so simple, but it was everything. For a long, long time, you could literally walk up to the government with 35 US dollars and walk away with 1 ounce of gold. It wasn't a metaphor, it wasn't a promise, it was a fact. And that gave the dollar this rock-solid, tangible value that you could feel.
And this right here, this just shows you how powerful that system was. See, the US was making stuff the rest of the world desperately wanted. Cars, TVs, all of it. And if you wanted to buy those awesome American products, what did you need? You needed American dollars. It's that simple. So this created this natural, constant demand for the dollar all over the globe. It was valuable because you could use it to buy real things made by real people in America.
But that entire, stable system, it was about to get completely blown up. Yeah, one decision made in 1971 didn't just tweak the rules. It basically took the entire financial rulebook and just torched it.
So this timeline makes it crystal clear. Before 71, there's that direct, physical link to gold. Then, boom, 1971 hits, and that connection is just cut, severed. And from that moment forward, the dollar was a fiat currency. Its value wasn't tied to a pile of gold in a vault anymore. Instead, it was based on, well, faith. Faith in the US government and its economy.
Okay, so fast forward to today. What's the result of all this? We've had over 50 years of this new fiat system now. So what does the American economy actually look like?
All right, remember that chart from before? Let's fill in the other side. And whoa, the difference is just staggering. The world's biggest creditor nation is now the world's biggest debtor nation. That strong manufacturing base, most of it has been shipped overseas. And here's the kicker. Without that gold anchor, the US can now pay its bills by, you guessed it, just printing more money. It's a total 180 from where it started.
$2 trillion. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the US trade deficit every single year. It means the country's buying $2 trillion more in stuff from other countries than it's selling to them. And this isn't an accident. It's a direct result of this new way of doing things.
So you have to understand how this news cycle works. It's pretty wild. Step 1. The US imports a ton of real stuff, phones, cars, clothes, from countries like China, Japan, and Korea. But here's the thing. It exports very little in comparison. So how does it pay for all that stuff? It just creates more dollars. It pays for real goods with printed paper.
Now, this setup has given the US a really unique, you might even say privileged, position for decades. But you can't have an imbalance that big forever. The rest of the world is starting to notice. So the question is, how are they reacting?
And this really gets to the heart of the issue. Think about it. For most countries, if they want to buy something, they have to make something first. They have to use their people, their resources, their factories to produce real goods to sell. But the US? It's been able to skip that step. It can just print the payment.
And because of that fundamental imbalance, things are starting to change. You're seeing countries all over the world starting to, well, hedge their bets. They're slowly diversifying away from the US dollar. Why? Well, they're looking at the US financial situation, they're seeing the political risks, and a lot of them are thinking,
maybe we should rely on currencies that are backed by actual, real production again.
In all of this, it leads us to one massive final question. The entire system, the dollar's power, it's all built on trust. And for the first time in a long time, that trust is starting to show some cracks. So, if the world loses faith in the dollar, what's next? What's going to replace it? That right there is the multi-trillion-dollar question of our lifetime.